Ta-da! Welcome to another day of Bhagavad Gita Sadhana with me, Atmadarshan or Laura, however you'd like to address me. Or you can address me as the gold medal winner in biking to new streets in different cities. Yeah. Actually, with the Olympics going on, I think I'm being a little obnoxious. I'm going around the house going like, silver medalist in taking out the trash. Yeah. And all this stuff. It's been a lot of fun. But part of it is also applicable to life as seen through the lens of the Bhagavad Gita. Of course it is. If you've heard of the Olympics, you don't even have to be watching them. You know that it's the world's top athletes competing for these medals that they get to take home and fame in some respect. When I was watching that infamous pommel horse routine by the United States gymnast, I was thinking, 40 seconds. His routine was about 40 seconds. And I was thinking, it's only 40 seconds. And then I contemplated how much time went into that 40 seconds. Years, hours a day, so much sacrifice. And yet we just see that 40 seconds and we judge people based on just that 40 seconds. And it's the same way in life. A lot of the people we interact with from day to day, we interact with them for what? A minute or less? And we form whole ideas of who they are and how they are based on that tiny interaction. And we're giving off ideas of who we are also. Those of us who are on the spiritual path, if we want to move from amateur level to Olympic level, we have to realize the amount of effort that goes into just a few seconds of when it really matters in life. The samurai knew this. I mean, they were preparing for death at every moment. And so a lot of their training, hours and hours, training days and days, weeks and weeks, months and months, were for that moment, for just that moment of dying. And I'm calling that the tip of the iceberg phenomenon. Many of us see the tip of the iceberg and we might go things like, wow, look at that. Or that Olympic athlete stunk, which I don't know how any Olympic athlete can stink because they've got this whole iceberg beneath them. Maybe in that few seconds, they weren't their best, but just like them, we have to look at the iceberg that we're cultivating. In spiritual life, it's easy to see the tip and say, whenever I interact with that person for just a minute or two a day, maybe 15 minutes every morning, they seem so like this. And I want that. But I don't have time in my busy life. So how can I take the shortcut? And I'm sorry to say that for the true Olympian in anything, there's no shortcut. You have to put in all the work that's below the surface that nobody sees, that nobody might even think about. For example, tip of the iceberg, we're together 15 minutes or so. It takes me about an hour to prepare, to set up, to take down, to follow up and make sure everything gets to YouTube, to keep a log of what I'm talking about. Yeah. And you in your life, so many people, just think of the things that you put so much work into behind the scenes that folks take for granted. Yeah. It's got to be the same thing with spiritual life. And this is one of the teachings of the Gita, is Arjuna has prepared his whole life for this key moment, and now his training is failing him, and Krishna is reminding him of that iceberg that doesn't show, and you can't take a shortcut to. If you try to have just the tip without the iceberg, there's no substance to it, and people will figure that out soon enough. So we have to remember, and one thing we can do, especially if we say, I don't have time to be an Olympic spiritual person. Your whole life can be seen as training. Everything you do, from how you sit, from how you open your mail, from how you wash your dishes, from how everything. And everything's a choice. Just like with an Olympic athlete, they make choices as to how to spend their time. If you're not doing some spiritual practice almost daily, it's going to be really hard to keep up. And I'll be honest about that. And also sacrifice. So, for example, for me to do this year-long sadhana, there's sacrifices. I can't do a lot of the things I used to do in summer mornings now because 8:15 I have to do my practice. And it would be one thing if I did it on my own, but to do it with you all, that requires a commitment. And for spiritual practice also, I don't stay out late. I can't stay out late because I'm used to getting up early. Don't eat certain ways, don't drink certain ways just because. And it's not about being holier than thou. It's about if I'm on this path, this is what supports me. Just like an Olympic athlete, they have to eat a certain way, they have to watch their intake to be their best. And so do we on the spiritual path. And we tend to forget that. So, to all Olympic spiritual aspirants, if you have really big dreams for your spirituality, your practice, I salute you today and dedicate this practice to you today. I also dedicate it to Vera and also to my neighbors on Glen Russ Street, a street that I've never been down before, even though it's not so far away. And that's where I got my gold medal. I found a new street. Ta-da! And I walked down it and talked with some of the neighbors briefly, and it was just lovely. So it'll be interesting to check in with people and see if you've been doing this practice regularly, if they've noticed any change. All this work you're doing under the surface when they're not around, is that affecting your interactions with them? Let's practice. Let's add on another day of training. Training for balance on all levels. Switch. Swim it back. All right. Now we have our 5 minutes of contemplation. It's just 5 minutes. Maybe you can it's like a meta contemplation. You can contemplate, how am I approaching this? And is it helping me reach my goal in spiritual life? Like, do I just sit here and go, okay, now it's my free time to think of whatever I want, la la la? Or do I focus on what I need to do to get where I want to go? For just 5 minutes, let's try. Beep, 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 beep. Thank goodness for my internal timer as you welcome back, because I actually hit the wrong button. So we went a little over 5 minutes, but I was like, it's more than 5 minutes. Huh. So anytime an Olympic athlete makes something look easy, you know they put a lot of work into it. And same thing in our lives. What do you want to look easy in your life? And how can you put in the work to ensure that happens? Oh, and by the way, if you don't follow on social media, and I encourage you to, because there's more going on than just this, but on Monday, on the anniversary of my mother's death, I recorded myself chanting my translation of chapter 8 of the Gita, which is about death and dying. And I put that video on the YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it at the end once this is done processing. So if you're watching this later, you'll be able to just click on that link. And I hope you find other things that you enjoy and that support you, including perhaps some time together tomorrow. Until then, gold medal.